Okay, I know this isn't really a good shot. I don't know if you can see inside, but these huts were designed to hold 12 individuals. Now, when they were constructed out of wood logs, they would have been a little shorter than this. These are a little bit higher than normally what these would have been. Now, they had to dig down. They had to go into the foundation, like I was saying. They cut a floor about 4 to 5 feet deep. Now, this is kind of deep. It was a lot of moisture. They didn't want the floors that deep because basically during the springtime, it would get usually pretty bad down there. There's a lot of fungus or mold that would grow in these encampments. Now, as they went down further, they had more problems. Washington didn't want them to dig down into the ground really far. If they dug in the ground far, they'd use less logs. The guys would be down in the ground, they would have 3 or 4 logs. This is a little bit bigger than the encampment that you see. Generally, there'd be about 12 guys. I mean, this looks like an officer's. Now, these were all different. Everyone was different. Washington placed orders to have these log cabins built. He had specific information that they should have a fireplace in the back. They should generally have a cooking area, but they didn't want the soldiers to cook in their huts. They wanted them to cook outside. Now, there's a structure right off to my right. This is where they would have the little pots. The pots were used for 6 individuals. It would be a little tiny cast iron pot that they carry with them. This was their mess kit. This is where they cooked their provisions in. Now, during this time, they had to boil things. They couldn't fry them. For some reason, when you fried your food, it didn't kill the bacteria. They wanted it boiled. That's what the Washington's orders were. Now, generally, these pots were given out to every 6 soldiers. They'd have 1 mess kit for 6 soldiers. Now, when you think about these cabins today, I mean, you look inside them, they're large, they're spacious, there's no material in here. Now, they would have had all their provisions, they would have had their gear in here, they would have had everything that they needed personally. All their personal implements would be in this general area. Now, when you think about Valley Forge and the suffering that took place, it's absolutely true. They did have some times that they had a lot of problems here. During the springtime, they had a lot of people that were sick. More people died in the springtime than in the wintertime here. Now, generally, when the sick were they didn't really bury dead here. They had to take people out of this area. Generally, to the outskirts, a lot of the farmers' houses or some Quakers took a lot of the sick in from Valley Forge. They didn't want the people to be sick in the community here. They'd infect other people. So as soon as they became sick, out they went. They put them on a wagon and out they went. Now, a lot of times that you hear about Washington's army starving, now that was true also. During excavations here at Valley Forge, they found a lot of feet bones. They found a lot of the undesirable cuts of meat. A lot of the bones that were found were like pig's feet, if you eat that today. They weren't the good cuts of meat. Now, generally, I think the farmers in the area were trying to help out the Continentals here, but they didn't give them choice material. They gave them what they had left over. You know, the Army was given whatever they had at the time. Now, during the spring of 1778, there's a river. It was a natural defense for Washington. Basically, what happened in the Schuylkill River is the Chad ran. There was a bunch of fish that ran that came up the Schuylkill River. Now, that was a godsend for these individuals. At that time, they were really having a problem with a lot of provisions. Now, Nathaniel Greene at the time, Nathaniel Greene was a commander. He was the reserves at Brandywine. He brought them up. Now, Nathaniel Greene himself was quartermaster general. Now, that was a bad job because basically you were a pencil pusher. You had to say where the Army got their food. So Nathaniel Greene sent out raiding parties, not raiding parties, but parties to go get food. And he did very well at this, and he was very well, as far as Lafayette and Washington, they said that he was doing a very good job. Now, Nathaniel Greene himself didn't like the job. He was out of combat. He didn't have troops. He was basically stationed, most likely, in his own headquarters, and he was bringing provisions into this area. Now, Nathaniel Greene himself was a Quaker. He was a fighting Quaker, which was rare at that time because Quakers were peaceful people. They wore brown suits. They wear round hats. They weren't really the fighting type. But Nathaniel Greene was a very good man. He was a good Quaker, and he did a very good job at saving the troops here at Valley Forge. Now, when these fish, the Chad, ran up the Schuylkill, they threw nets in there and caught them. They brought barrels of salted fish here. It was a godsend for these soldiers. And basically, they survived the winter. There was a small outbreak of cholera here. There was a small outbreak of smallpox here. And another problem that the Continentals had was the latrines. They had to make latrines. Now, a latrine is a bathroom. That's exactly what it is. But some of these soldiers would go to bathroom outside their tent. They didn't want to walk in the snow or the cold. They wanted to walk away from their cabin and go to the bathroom. Now, if this was found out by Washington, he gave them the cat o' nine tails. They would get whipped. So basically, the latrines have to be farther away. They were about 200 yards away from camp. Now, this was so that a lot of the diseases, like cholera, would not spread. But unfortunately, these orders were too late. So during the winter encampment, a lot of soldiers used the bathrooms outside their cabins. So in the springtime, when it started to thaw, that's when all the diseases in Valley Forge happened. Like I was saying, more people died here in the spring than in the winter time because of disease. Now, generally what we see in back of us is a hut, and it would have been used in an encampment here on December 25th, 1777 at Valley Forge.